How do you start your morning? Like most young boys, Gary Ridgway would wake up excited after sexually charged dreams about the opposite sex. But instead of fantasizing about the hot blonde who lived up the street, his fantasies hit a little closer to home.
When did you think about having sex with your mother?
Serial killer Gary Leon Ridgway was born February 18th, 1949 in Salt Lake City, Utah. His home life was, let's say, troubled. Relatives and neighbors alike would describe his mother as domineering. Hey, but at least she was hot.
I always remember her wearing kind of the
really
tight shorts. She was very attractive lady.
In his teens, Gary developed a bedwetting problem. So, like any like any responsible adult, his mother handled the problem like anyone would.
Personally washing his genitalia. This kind of behavior is very unusual.
But apparently she scrubbed a little too hard, as Gary soon began fantasizing about killing her. Gary's father was a city bus driver, and like any good father, he would take his son along with him on his route from time to time. The wheels on the bus go round and round. Get off my route, you fucking whores! Sorry, round and round, round and round. Yeah, he took him on his route through SeaTac, Washington, a rundown district filled with more hookers than grown-up Gary could strangle in 100 lifetimes. As you can guess, Gary's father hated whores.
I hate them. I can't stand them.
But that didn't stop him from getting in on the action.
A couple of episodes where Gary recalls him leaving him in the vehicle while Dad went and had sex with a prostitute.
I don't know, maybe they were in bus fare or something. Whether it was his hot mom bathing his genitals or his father's immersive approach to sex ed, somehow Ridgway developed an insatiable appetite for sex. At age 18, Gary had nothing but fucking on his mind. So, while still in school, he joined the Navy and got married after graduation. But darn it, he was immediately shipped off to Viet Nam.
Wherever he was, he visited sex workers.
Yeah, he contracted like every STI under the sun.
Which he was angry about.
But take a guess who he was angry at, himself or the prostitutes? Come on, this is Gary fucking Ridgway we're talking about. Taking responsibility for engaging in unprotected sex with hookers in a war zone? Not Gary. Dude, that's like sticking your dick in an electrical socket, then blaming the electrician. Unlike many fallen heroes from Vietnam, unfortunately, Ridgway didn't get Lieutenant Dan. The only battle scars he had to show from his time overseas were a few warts on the head of his dick.
I guess you could call that a dick.
But with the war finally over, at least he could now finally settle down with his wife and safely act out his sexual fantasies.
When Ridgway returned, he found his wife had been dating another man. The couple divorced in January 1972.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, this has got to be the part where the sex workers start going missing, right? Well, not exactly. He actually remarried, had a child, and went in the opposite direction.
Ridgway suddenly became something of a religious zealot, a Bible thumper.
But once he read the words, "Thou shalt not kill," he immediately threw that outdated book in the trash, put his wife in a chokehold, and began strangling hookers like his life depended on it.
A little longer than a few minutes later, a pair of boys are riding their bikes across the Peck Bridge when suddenly...
They stopped for a moment, and as they looked down, they saw something.
Oh, pause. Time out.
Time out.
Is it A, a mask that magically transforms the wearer into a cartoon? B, Jeffrey Dahmer's semen-encrusted mannequin? Or C, a dead hooker?
It's not a mannequin. They can see the hair of a young woman sort of flowing underneath the water.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be the only one. Over the following weeks, 4 more bodies were discovered in or along the banks of the Green River. All women, all strangled. Knowing they had a serial killer on the loose, on August 16, 1982, the Kings County Sheriff Office set up the Green River Taskforce to investigate the killings. Over the next 2 years, Gary Ridgway would go on to sexually assault and murder more than 40 women. Ridgway's MO was almost always the same.
He would pick up sex workers and murder them, and then dispose of their bodies in clusters.
But as if killing hordes of women wasn't enough, he was also known to engage in other unsavory activities.
Ridgway later confessed to having had sex with the bodies after death, in some cases, long after.
Now, being the world's leading expert when it came to fucking dead people, at one point Ted Bundy even reached out to the Taskforce to offer his assistance. The detectives were so desperate to catch this guy that they actually agreed to meet him. Bundy, being the expert that he was just like, for no particular reason, I've got a sneaking suspicion that this dude's fucking cadavers.
Nobody at that point had even considered that the Green River Killer was also a necrophile. It's a whole different layer of disgusting.
Bundy's like, hold my beer. The task force took Bundy's advice and tried staking out the crime scenes in hopes of catching the killer with his pants down, but no avail.
Let's just call it a day.
Around this time, an unusual suspect entered the picture. Oh, and by unusual, I mean quite literally the dumbest fucking human being ever to walk the face of the earth.
43-year-old Melvin Foster walks into the sheriff's office to file a report.
He tells the police that he's a cab driver who works the strip where the girls are going missing from, and that he has a gut feeling that the killer is, get this, a cab driver.
He's saying, like, I knew a lot of the girls, I take the girls different places. You know, I've been in a lot of these areas. I know these areas.
As he's now the prime suspect in a serial murder case, naturally, Melvin feels the need to defend himself. So how does he go about reassuring the world that he's not the Green River Killer? Oh, like this.
Did you kill all those women or what? No, but I wish I did.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So now the cops and the general public are 100% sure that Melvin is the killer. And when he just so happens to put his car up for sale, an undercover cop buys it for a cool $1,200, hoping that a thorough search will provide them with the evidence they need to put him away. But as we all know, Melvin wasn't the Green River Killer. So naturally the police found nothing suspicious in the vehicle.
We discovered nude photographs in the trunk of his car of young prostitutes. We found women's clothing and underwear.
What? Who sells their car like that? Don't you normally clean it first? Especially if you're like the prime suspect in a murder investigation of prostitutes? You just forgot about your stash of panties and a collection of hooker Polaroids?
It slipped my mind.
But considering all the sex workers in the pictures that he had were found alive, the police didn't have any evidence to charge him with, and slowly, he just faded out of the picture. On April 30th, 1983, a local sex worker was last seen by her boyfriend getting into a paint-patched pickup with a dark-haired man about 30 to 40 years old. After she failed to return home the next morning, her boyfriend and her father cruised the surrounding suburbs looking for the truck.
It's parked in front of the home of a 34-year-old divorced dad and paint shop worker named Gary Ridgway.
4 days later, the police were knocking on his door. But as fate would have it, one of the police officers went to high school with Ridgway.
How you doing, you old pirate?
And after a few simple questions, they left. Free to go about his business, things continued to get worse.
By the end of November 1983, police have recovered the bodies of 13 young women.
Finally, thanks to new techniques in forensic testing, investigators re-examined evidence from the years the killer had been active. And on November 30th, 2001, Ridgway, 52, was arrested in connection with 4 of the Green River Killer's early victims. On November 5th, 2003, Gary Ridgway pleaded guilty to a staggering 48 charges of aggravated first-degree murder, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. So why did he do it? Why did he kill all those innocent women? Was it a hatred for women, early childhood trauma? Was it born from an uncontrollable urge for violent sex? Or was he just trying to make Dad proud?
One of the things that frequently came up was that he wouldn't have to pay for the sex.
It turns out he just wanted to save a few bucks. So, what do you think? Is it wrong to want to sleep with your parent or guardian, even if she's super hot? Let me know in the comments below. And, of course, if you've been enjoying the content, make sure you murder that subscribe button and click that notification bell, because we've got new content dropping all the time. And if you just can't get enough, you could also go over and follow us on Instagram or TikTok for even more killer content.